Sounds like, and it's interesting because I think things come full circle, and it all comes back to self-reflection,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's that same thankfulness is that same self-reflection. It's that same dead weight reflection. It's a matter of conscious awareness and reflecting on your life, your circumstances, the people around you.
It's also very important. If you do not take time to reflect and make decisions in life, and you just want to swing it like, okay, I'll just do this because this is what I feel. If you do not take the time to reflect and adjust your life and the journey in this life accordingly, life will force you to change. So guys, here I am, my first ever podcast. So I'm the only mentor, and this is our first podcast. I have my great friend, a mentee, and co-host on tonight's podcast, Chris Forrest. So, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is definitely our first time for both of us to do a podcast, but I think that it's going to be a good thing. We have a beautiful setting. I'm glad we could bring you into my space. But The Only Mentor's got a lot of wisdom, and it's time to put that on podcast setting. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey, who you are, what you stand for, and why you're here.
Okay. The Only Mentor, right? The Only Mentor is my own creation. It's my own name. It's my own brand name that I came up with. It's a long journey, and I never actually think too much about where life is going to take me. I just do things, and I feel things. If they feel right, I continue doing. So I do think that I feel like naturally I have always been blessed to have some wisdom in life. It's not that I was born with this wisdom, but I do think there's something about people in my life, my grandfather on my mom's side. I do think there's certain traits that I hear about him which are in me. So I think there's something about that to be said. But then if you move forward in life, I was surrounded by people who shaped me to be who I am today. And I'll start with some of the people who have influenced me greatly in my life. The first person was a very, very close friend of mine and still is Salman. He and I had a friendship where it was unique in a way because I used to look up to him because he was a very smart kid, right? And I was not a very smart kid to begin with. So I surrounded myself with people. I've been very selective in my life. I don't surround myself with a lot of people. I believe in quality over quantity. And I feel like over the course of time, I've learned a lot of traits of how to be a better person, how to be a better student, moving forward, going into med school. One of my really good friends, Mohsen, I think that also added a lot of the same qualities that I needed to sharpen. Very educated, driven, smart guy, balanced guy, religious guy. So I learned a lot of stuff from people. So I was shaped into being who I am today. And along the way, I had some other good friends. One of my very good friends is Saqib. And then fast forward today. Today is, the journey to this thing started a long time ago. I think if I'm the only mentor, the first mentee, the only mentee at that time would have been Chris Forrest. And the journey started a long time ago. And, I kind of... I never did anything like this before. I mean, people used to talk to me. I used to talk to people just like normal, but like as a friend. But I think with him, it was like we had an age difference, right? So it wasn't like we were like friends from day one or we were just hanging out and doing things. It was more of like, he saw that I was a father figure, like, figure. Not that I would like to be father figure like in any way, but in a way it was more of like an older brother. And he looked up to me because he saw that I have something in me that basically, I think, resonate to what I saw in my friends, right? So they were same age, but I saw some qualities. And I think Chris was attracted towards those qualities of like what it takes to be more balanced. What does it take to be more successful in life? What is the true meaning of success? And that's how the journey started. It's a very long journey, and I don't know if I can talk about that on this podcast, but the journey goes on and on where I helped him in making sure that he understands the decisions you make in life in the moment that you're in are consequential because those decisions shape who you are today. Those decisions shape your future, and you have to learn the process of understanding because you cannot just swing it, right? You cannot just swing life. You cannot just say, oh, I'm just going to do whatever. I'm going to go get drunk. I'm just going to go do all the fun stuff that everyone does. That's not life. Life, and the earlier you realize in your life, the better outcome you have in your life. So it's like, so it was more about me showcasing who I am, what I value, the discipline you have in life. I think that was more resonating, and that is something he wanted in his life. So this is how he became the first mentee, and it was not about this platform. It's never been about a platform. It's always been what I have always desired. Before Chris, I mentored someone named David, and that was a beautiful journey in itself. So journeys, I mean, are long journeys. It's hard to put them today on the podcast, but in a nutshell, when you have a good core, I believe that you attract good people. And when you attract good people in your life, they see your core because you're more transparent and open with them. And once they see your core, I think they also learn from you. And once you learn, then you start practicing. And once you practice, you're never perfect, right? So I'm not perfect, and no one is perfect. Humans were not made to be perfect, right? But over the course of time, you move along and you see what can be changed. And, sometimes it takes decades for people to change, and they still don't change 100% and for better. But it's the every step you take in life. If it is towards betterment, you'll get there, because that is the goal, that every day should be better than the next, the next day should be better than the first day. And you have to move forward. And there's so many things that come in the way. And I think I would like to ask Chris to mention something to, he can trigger thoughts, so I can talk about something that you really felt, and maybe I can, pinpoint.
Well, this is the introduction, right? So I think that we'll get into the nitty-gritty of it all, and that'll all unfold. So that's the Only Mentor. The Only Mentor is one who dives right into the depth, the core, meaning of life. That's who you are, right? So we're here to have a conversation, and this is the first of probably many podcasts. You will be the one who's on all of them. I won't be in all of them. I think, maybe we should jump right into one of these topics here, and then all of that will, it'll all kind of take some shape.
I guess the topic written is rags to riches. I don't know if that's a good label for it, but I guess it's the trendy way to present it. So I met Chris when he only had one account, right? Let's start there. So now he has an empire, which I think is an empire. But he started with a one Valet account when I knew him. And that's how I met him, through his Valet accounts, because we used to go at a place regularly, and he used to be there, very friendly with our children. And that's how this friendship started. But as you move along in this, it is where he is today. If you look at this 14-year journey, I've known him for that long, 14, 15-year journey, you can see that this transition is immense, right? But this transition is not just one day, right? It was, if you don't mind me sharing, but I remember the days when Chris had a beat-up Honda that had to be push-started by people. And I couldn't believe it that this is really existing, because I moved from abroad, and in America, I was like, people would have nice cars and everything, and people, not everyone does, but it was like that push-start car was something. I was like, really? So from that point to seeing where he stood, but he always had the eye to see where he wants to go in life, right? So that's why he was more fond of making a friend who he can look up to, a person who he can talk to. And a lot of who you are is based on how you were as a child, as a teenager, as an adult. So a lot of those things have consequences on our personality. And he wanted that someone should, guide him towards about what is the true meaning of success and how to get there. And that was the role I had for the majority of. I also had a big role in his religious,
journey
in life. But along with that, I think if you talk about the success, I think the first and the foremost thing is discipline. The first and the foremost thing I taught him, or anyone that I teach, is discipline. If you have discipline in life, you can get where you want to get. But if you don't have discipline, if you don't have self-control, so we talk about self-control, and I'll openly talk about it. People in their young 20s here love to go out, love to get drunk, love to do whatever is out there, and feel this is life because they feel this is the fun part of our life. I guess how you define fun is, I never drank alcohol all my life and have never had a sip of alcohol, but that's just me. Everyone does things how they want to do things. But if you don't have discipline, if you don't know what is the dead weight that you carry, you cannot move forward because the dead weight is going to ground you to where you are, and then you just stay stagnant. And if you stay stagnant and then don't blame 10 years down the road like, oh, why didn't I do anything different? You had the opportunities, and I'm sure God sends people around to help people grow in life, but some people just never do. But the importance is that you have to realize the dead weight. And I will emphasize a lot on dead weight because dead weight is what defines if you even have the ability to move forward. Dead weight could be your company. Dead weight could be things that people do like drugs, alcohol. Dead weight could be things like being not conscious of what you have financially and what your means are to do at that time. Because if this kind of concept in your mind of dead weight is not there, you're not going to grow because you are every day you're surrounded by same company, you're surrounded by alcohol, drugs, everything. You don't get out of it. If you don't get out of it, then there's no way forward. And how do you even realize? Because you need someone to tell you, hey, I look from a little bit of a distant vision and I see that A, B, C, D, E, these things in your life are kind of holding you back. And you highlight those things as like, hey, maybe you can be a better person, a better version of yourself if you maybe do these things. Because as a mentor, you cannot force anything, right? Mentors are not there to force people to change. Mentors are there to disturb the peace because nothing that we as mentors do is very peaceful. It's all very irritating.
If there's anyone who knows that, that's me.
Yeah, that's for sure. But it's all very irritating because change is not easy. Who wants to change? And if you do want to change, then you have to accept the fact that, I am willing to adapt to change. I'm willing to take it a little bit more comfortably rather than feeling that, this is so hard for me. So getting to the point is you have to, first thing is realization. Once you realize that there is dead weight, that is step one. And that is actually the biggest thing. The first step you take towards something is actually the most monumental step. So if the first step is, which I think it's very important to know what your dead weight is, then you can say, hey, these are the things I need to get rid of, and maybe I'll be better. This is exactly what happened with Chris. I realized certain things. If he wants to be successful, if he wants to have a name, if he wants to grow in life, not just financially, but also personally, also religiously, I felt these things are the things you need to set aside. And, not everyone can do it, but he did it. And it's not easy. It's very, very challenging because you grow up in a culture, right? So I grew up in a different culture, so I can take so much pride. I don't drink alcohol, I don't do this, but I was never even exposed to it, so it's different. But when you live in a certain culture, to give up some of these things is almost letting go of your entire social life. And then you feel isolated. But then, again, sometimes you need to feel that a little bit. Sometimes you need to have that isolation a bit to reflect in, because a lot of times the dead weight doesn't actually lead you to realize anything. It actually takes self-awareness away. So people never realize, what is really at stake here because you have so much dead weight, because you're always drowned in things which are just like fun and there's no realization. But then when you realize that this change is important and you change, then you kind of have an awareness of, maybe I'm a little lonely, maybe this is difficult, but it's worth it. You have to put effort in it. And then, our journey goes on, and I can keep saying, but the journey of, if we say rags to riches, is like, with so pride. I have so much pride in the fact that I always tell everyone that Chris is my closest friend, but he's also one of the mentees who kind of lived the whole program. It's not that it's a defined program, but he kind of like continued with it throughout, and he took all the right steps. And, in these steps, you're always tested. In these steps, you make some bad decisions. In these steps, you sometimes consult and listen. Sometimes you consult and you don't listen. And it's kind of like you become better and you become sharper. You are, it's like now, if I look at him and if I compare you to day one, definitely it's day and night. It's just like, it's even hard to look back at some of your old pictures and say, oh, this is the Chris we knew back then, and this is the Chris we know now. And now he has a huge empire of security and valet business, and he has a lot of employees, and it's just a different league now, a different game. So it takes a lot. Change is not easy. Success is not easy. There's no one formula that fits for everyone, but there are steps in your life that bring you to a point where you can see that I'm getting somewhere. And then once you see that, that's how it happened, from one account to few more accounts, from working at a coffee shop to having your first office. I still remember your first office in the Loring pasta bar, above Loring pasta bar. Was it there?
Lacroix,
Above Lacroix, yeah. So it's like that day when you had that your first office and the space, and then from there to here, it just seems like it's very monumental if you go back and look at it where you started, but it also reflects your sacrifices that you had to make. I can only guide. Mentors are there to guide, right? So we guide, but you have to take the stress. And I was a friend, so I was very supportive, so that helps. But then it took a lot of discipline, it took a lot of courage, it took a lot of tests, a lot of trials and tribulations about trying things, seeing if it works or if it doesn't work to get to this point. And he had a great business mind to begin with, and now here he is. So the rag to riches is possible, but there's a lot of sacrifices that go into it. There's a lot of consultation that goes into it, and you have to be of the right cut to make it happen. But we hear these stories all the time. How are all, like on the social media, you hear these stories, I had nothing and now here I am and this and that. It's true, it happens, but you have to have the right characteristic to really adapt to, because change isn't easy.
So let's talk about a little bit about, let's you and I talk about some of the formulas to success, because success is one of those things that there's many different paths to success. I think success means different things to different people. Depending on age, where they're at in life, what part of the world they live in. And I think that success is one of those things that is, it progresses over time. It means something different to each person over time as well, right? So success when we're 15 versus 25 versus 45 versus our later years in life, they absolutely will mean something different. Let's talk a little about that formula to success. Because we live in a very interesting time and place, living in America with the American culture, the consumer mindset. What does it mean to be successful, right? So that'll mean different things to different people, but I think this is a great topic for us to discuss.
I mean, success is like, how do you define success, right? I think success is, you have to really see what makes you happy is your success. It's not about money. It's not about finances as much as people think. I think these are all great things to have. You make your life is easier. But success has to be defined as what makes your core happy. I think what people don't realize right now is people relate success to money, right? Exclusively.
Right, as the number one pinnacle.
Some people may be so successful in their home lives, in their personal life, that they make enough money that they live, but the peace they have in their house outshines anything. And for them, the success is that I have a beautiful life because I'm so happy intrinsically. If you do not pay attention to your core, and if your core strives for material success, nothing wrong with it, but if your core strives for personal success, that's something to not ignore. So success is not something you can label as money exclusively. Success is something that you need to look within yourself. Like I can tell you about myself, right? This is about me too. I can tell you, to me, success is zero. No, I don't want to say zero. Success is minimally dependent on financials, but it is heavily dependent on how I feel that I am living my life. And when I say how I'm living my life, is there fun in my life? Fun, not like kind of fun like alcohol, drug fun, like fun in like, does something really touch my joy? Does it really touch my soul? Like, I think that over the course of time, like people believe in huge social circles. I mean, I know a lot of people and that's good, but I believe now life has taught me so many lessons that I believe in the core group of people I surround myself. And I can be with same people every day. And I will tell you, it never gets boring. It never gets old. It actually gets more beautiful, because that is what gives me joy in life. You know, being close to God is very important to me. And I have a journey towards faith, which was also kind of driven and multiplied in many ways by Chris's journey towards God. And I think that everyone has to find their own success definition, but success is something that you should strive for, and you cannot strive for something that you're not aware of. So first, everyone needs to look within themselves and say, is money going to make them happy? Is the happiness in the home is going to make them happy? Is the people they surround themselves with day in, day out is going to make them happy? Is travel something that's going to make you happy? So you have to really figure out the definition of success and then go after it. So in superficial way, success is all what is within you that you want.
I think that success is incremental and comes in stages, right? Because if we look at someone who's maybe young and they're going into college, to say that we just want to make sure that we feel good and it's not necessarily about finances. At certain stages of life, I think that it does have to be a focus so that you can establish a roadmap to be able to have the flexibility to put focus in these areas, because
it's true.
if you don't have the finances, then it is a focus, right?
Yeah.
So success and the label or the definition or what it means to each individual, I think it has different stages throughout the different phases of life, right?
I can journalize this in some way, and this is how I feel, and maybe everyone is different. What you do in your 20s is different than what you do in your 30s and what you do in your 40s. And people just kind of roll their eyes when I say this, but it is so important, because I have friends who are just very content with their life. It's just so content that you talk to them, it's like, wow. It's like, because they did what they need to do in the stage of life that they were in, and they're not heavily driven there with, the desire for having so much more luxuries and consumer mindset, or wanting everything under the umbrella in their house. So in your 20s is when you make or break yourself. I've always said this to everyone who talks to me. In your 20s is the time you make or break yourself. If you have lost your 20s and you have not done anything to get anywhere, then don't blame your 30s or 40s for not getting there, because you never put the groundwork. The groundwork is all that starts in your 20s, where it is that people have to have the mindset. Like, okay, my teenagers, I'm done. I'm going into college. I'm done with college. I need to know what I'm going to do. What is my dead weight? I think we should all ask, what is your dead weight, right? It's so, people just are so ignorant of what is on them that is actually holding them back.
And that actually can apply at every stage of life.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. But in your 20s, people have a lot of dead weight. I will tell you, the most dead weight is in your 20s in the Western culture, because people are drowned in the desires of what this Western world gives. In the Eastern world where I grew up, in your 20s is never anything about desires and what you want. It's all about how you make yourself. I know that I went to the med school, and I remember, and I was a very below average student until, let's say, my 9th grade and 8th grade. And that's when I talk about my friend Salman, because he triggered that thought that I could do better. Like how unique it is, my friendship with him. My parents never believed in tutors. So they said, no, you have to study yourself. My friend Salman had tutors, right? So his tutor would come and teach him everything. And then at night, I would call him on the phone and say, hi, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? He would take time out to really explain to me. And on the other side, there are people who think differently. His tutor used to tell him that, hey, your friend Hamad is actually, the only mentor, is actually wasting your time by calling you. You should be conscious of that. But he actually helped me, and I will forever give him the credit for who I am today in my life, being a physician, living a good life. So these kind of things are important. But what I was trying to say is that in your 20s is when you make or break yourself. So your focus in my 20s was, I need to go to this best medical school where I went, and I put full energy for 2 years of my life into not doing anything. People even my children look at me and are like, what? I said, yeah. So my study habits were such that I actually never did anything except watched one Bollywood movie on Thursday nights. Other than that, I was just always either only breaks were the breaks for prayers. Other than that, I was always studying. I had no other stuff in my mind. Yes, summer break, winter break were different, but other than that, this was my life. But I put my effort towards getting to the best med school, and I did get in there. And then once I was done with that, my drive was to, okay, I need to move on in life. I wanted to come to America to get the higher education. So I came here, did my residency fellowship, and now I'm a practicing rheumatologist. But 20s is the age where you make or break yourself. 20s is the age where everyone needs to look within themselves and say, what is my dead weight, and realize it and get rid of it to go further. 30s is a life where when you bring your life together a bit, right? Now you're done with so much education and everything. Now you're looking at, you're most likely close to getting married or already married. You're looking at raising a family. So the dynamics changes a little bit. Relationships do struggle when you are more focused. Now you may have such strong, I can tell you, my best friends that I'm talking about, I have so much love and respect for them that today they come, I will be exactly the same with them. We don't see each other as much as we used to. But I do still, because the dynamics and the life changes your direction, people move away, but your friends are there forever. In your 30s is when you really bring things together. You bring things home. Like I bring my family. Like your family comes into your life. You are closer. You kind of bring your new friends into your life. You're growing in your career as what you want to do. And in your 40s is when you feel that I feel rewarded. I feel rewarded. If you don't have the feeling of reward in your 40s, then I think is a problem, because by 50, people start talking about retirement in this country, right? So then if you don't have the feeling of like, okay, where's the reward, then there's a problem. But the reward cannot be there if you didn't do the 20s and 30s, right? So don't blame if you don't do what success means to you, because eventually it's all gonna not work if you don't do it right. So I do think that 20s is the time to make or break. 20s is the time to recognize your dead weight. 30s is the time when you bring everything together, you grow and you make new relationships and flourish. And by 40s, you should have the reward of having a beautiful family, having a good career, getting somewhere. But every field is different. I can talk about one field, but Chris's field here is completely different. He has challenges, work challenges, which are very unique, and I don't have them because my work is very different. But it is important to kind of realize what age group and what you have to do to get to that point of success.
Yeah, and everyone has a different path, right? Not everyone is going to be going to med school.
Yeah.
So everyone has to, establish their own foundation of what that looks like. But at the core of these principles, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Right. I think you made a good point. I think dead weight is a great self-reflection is really what that is.
Yeah.
And then with that, you may be able to have a little more clarity looking forward on how to establish that roadmap.
Yeah.
Because life is like a roadmap, right? You can't get to that destination without stopping for gas, stopping for food, and it's not just an instant gratification scenario. There are foundational steps that have to go along the way. There's self-reflection. Otherwise, you just end up going with the wind, and most likely things won't pan out the way that you'd like if you don't have a very intentional, thought-out process and self-reflection, as you described.
And I always believe in this ideology, which I think is a very good concept to live by, and it kind of blends into this talk. And I think it is that I believe in the system of reward. And it's not a reward that I'm talking about that you feel in your 40s. I believe in this nature play. People actually don't pay attention to it, but there is a nature play which is going on. It has to do a lot with religion. It has to do a lot with God. And I can just keep it in simple terms and say that if you do good, if you have a good heart, people are so dishonest these days. People are not doing the right things. There's no concept of, fear sometimes. I feel that you have to realize that the cycle of nature that I talk about is whoever you are, which is defined by your childhood. So that's another topic that someday we'll talk about. Who you are is defined by your childhood. There's no doubt about that. But in that who you are in your childhood, you may have a good childhood, you may have a decent childhood, you may have the best childhood, but it leaves imprint for something which is divine. And that divine imprint in you is that defines your core to a greater extent. And that core, if that core is drawn towards divinity, God, nature, I'll use these terms, and you are good at your core and you do good, the nature will reward you back. This is why it's so important to be good, because one thing is to be good and honest is just like we're good and honest, but there is a thing about there's something happening on the side where if you put the good out there, if you have a soft heart towards people who are suffering, if you have a soft heart towards people who are struggling in life and don't have anything and you feel so much for them, maybe you don't even give them a dime, but the fact that you felt something for them in your heart is the point or where the nature will come back and reward you because you have that feeling, right? Humans are nothing but your relationship with God is based on feelings. So if you put good out there, you will get good in the term of the reward system that I believe in. So that's another important thing that I feel is kind of important. there's one more topic written on the board here. I think we can talk about that, and that is never satisfied. I mean, I don't know if it blends into it or not, but I think when I talk about once you made it, right, and you have so much of stuff in life and you enjoying life, everything, I do feel that a lot of this is also, you can say that you want to define success, but if you have a success model that is never satisfied, you will never be successful in life. Like, what is the definition of success? I need so many millions in my bank account? Or is it that I want this in my life, material stuff? Or is it like I want true happiness in life, which gives me joy? But I feel that you need to have that feeling of satisfaction. Like for me, if I define my success in life as my joy and in my core, that the people I surround myself with, I value how I affect these people for future of their lives, the next generations. That gives me satisfaction that I'm actually doing things to make sure that I am getting to that point. And if your satisfaction is like, I want more and more and more of anything, may it be just more and more of joy, more and more of money, more and more of like recognition, then you will never be satisfied. You'll never be satisfied and you'll never be successful in your own self. People may see you and say, oh, wow, he's successful. He drives a good car. He has this. That's the definition of the world's success, right? People look at your success different.
Success, yeah.
That's a different, and that's also a lot of social media stuff that, at some point we'll talk about. But one thing is, what is your own satisfaction? If you don't have that self-satisfaction of success, success is meaningless. There's no meaning to this success if you don't get to a point where you feel, I feel that I'm satisfied. And a lot of this stuff is true, that people these days just want more and more and more. I want this car, I want that car, I want this, I want that. It's like, and you're never satisfied. You don't even say, thank you, God, for giving me this. I mean, it's so ironic. I sometimes feel it's so sad that we in America, majority of the people, I mean, the people struggle all over the world and here too, but people have good means for life. They have good systems. They have healthcare systems that support people who cannot afford it. They have programs for people who are even homeless. Imagine the people where I have grown up and I've seen the world a lot. I've traveled a lot. The struggles that people go through, it will make you fall on your knees and cry to be thankful for what God has given you, because people do not recognize, people just want. If you compare any average American's life or Western population life with anyone who is in a very extremely third world country, you cannot even imagine living a day like that. And you have problems about little things that just drown you because you just don't feel good about it. It's just so pity. I mean, it's just so sad that humans have been given so much, and instead of saying, thank you, God, that I have a ride, it's like, why don't I have that ride? It's like, that's the point, right? So be thankful, because being thankful will maybe help you be satisfied in life. So satisfaction is very, very important. You will otherwise continue to want more in life, and you may never get to a point where you're satisfied. So set some parameters in your own mind. Be thankful for what you have given, because being thankful is also, I also believe in this way, that when God has given you, because it's a blessing of God, what you have is not just you, is the system God, right? What God has given you, you also have to find the right way. God doesn't tell you don't drive a nice car. There's never been said that. It is how you drive that car. What is your feeling when you're driving? Are you driving on the road because you want all these 50 people to see your car? Or are you driving this car because, thank God that God has blessed me with this, and I actually appreciate this blessing by driving it, that God has been so merciful to me that He has blessed me with this luxury, and I'm actually so humbled to be driving this, and not like, oh, are these people looking at me and what are they thinking, and I want to go showcase this thing. That's another problem we have, that you don't have
humility.
The humility for success. So what is success if you don't even have the humility that God has given you? He can, in a second, God can take away everything. Let's say, like we see disasters happen, right? Look, there's a recent disaster in Florida. So within seconds, everything can vanish. Yes, you can build, you can have means, but everything can go away. You can have an earthquake and everything that you have, cars, houses could be just gone, right? So it can all come and go, but be thankful, because you are living in the most luxurious country in the world. You are enjoying luxuries that people can only imagine and dream of, right? Being a young kid, I can always tell you, I used to come visit America. I used to visit my uncle and aunt every summer. And that kind of triggered my thought that I want to come here because I was like, wow, what a different life, right? This people have nice cars, people have nice homes, they have open backyards. You can go do fun things. As a kid, I used to love snow. Like, wow, this country has snow. You can go do activities. It's like these are the things, right? So you have to. I had this vision of coming to America, which was very different because I felt this is a place of freedom. I did really truly believe that this is a place for freedom. I believe this is a land of opportunities, which I really, really do believe that it is. And it is a place where I would love to raise a family and, call my home. And here I am. But it is important to have that, like a drive towards something. Be thankful about that. Be thankful during the drive and also when you get there. So if you're not satisfied with what you have, there's no success for you. There's no success.
Well, it sounds like, and it's interesting because I think things come full circle, and it all comes back to self-reflection.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's that same thankfulness is that same self-reflection. It's that same dead weight reflection. It's a matter of conscious awareness and reflecting on your life, your circumstances, the people around you. Your core,
I can tell you,
your intentions. Yeah. And you said it earlier that we absolutely, it's interesting that I think that social media plays such a role in the American culture that we're easily distracted.
Yeah.
We're easily distracted. We're easily influenced. We're easily, we go towards the next thing and the biggest thing and the next contract that we see in the NBA. And it's very interesting that we need to be, at some point, be able to slow down, simplify our lives a little bit, and self-reflect and really look at, like, what is that true definition of success? So it all seems to be coming back to self-reflection.
It's also very important. If you do not take time to reflect and make decisions in life and you just want to swing it like, okay, I'll just do this because this is what I feel. If you do not take the time to reflect and adjust your life and the journey in this life accordingly, life will force you to change. Okay, that's one of the biggest lessons I have learned. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned in life that if you don't change, life will change you. And life will come to you and take you on. And that's also if you had this divine connection toward God, because God would not want you on a wrong path and he will redirect you. But many people would not even take that opportunity to be observant of this. Like, so reflection, you can talk about reflection, but you have to be observant. And when you're observant that something in this life is not right now, and God creates circumstances for you to change it, you can either say, I adapt to it, I would like to explore it, I would like to do this, versus, no, I'm fine because I just don't feel comfortable changing and I don't really care about the consequences of anything. But life will give you opportunities to grow. Life will give you opportunities to be tested. And if you test and you're on the right path, then you will succeed. So it's important for people to take time out to reflect, because without reflection, humans were not made to be dumb, right? We were not. We are the most beautiful creation of this world, of the universe, right? We are the best of the creations of God. So if we are the best of the creations of God, we have a mind, we have a system, majority of us believe in God. It is important to know that you have to reflect. God has given you these abilities. It's not that we were just meant to be like this and we are just doing everything. God gave us mind and brain for a reason. Why do we have a thought process? So you have to have a thought process to think. So make sure you reflect.
So when do you reflect? I mean, life is fast. The world is fast. There's always something on the to-do list. When do you reflect?
Back in the days, I used to go out on drives and reflect on life. I used to think. Sometimes I would come to some conclusions. Sometimes wouldn't. Now I generally reflect in on the weekends late at night. So I would spend on a weekend, if I'm doing things with the family, everything, at the end of the night, I'm just going to sit in my living room. And no matter how much people waste so much time on social media scrolling. No matter how much I am on social media, I can tell you my screen time to scroll is very, very minimal. I don't know what the trends are in all reality. I am who I am. I also don't want to listen to too much. I don't want to observe too much of what people are doing because I don't follow trends. I believe that how I live my life, I have a vision of it. I want to live it that way. And if my vision is right, and if I share this and people like it, it's good. And if they don't, that's fine. I don't want to go by trends to do anything, but I generally reflect in when I'm alone. I generally reflect in um, when I have time because on weekdays it's hard. So that would be the time that I reflect on. And you need to be in a comfortable place. If your reflection is that you want to be alone, or maybe I'll go into my man cave downstairs, or just sit and think, or when I'm driving, I listen to some kind of music that takes me back into the time when I was young and thinking of how I want life to be, and now I'm here. And I compare from people sometimes listen, why do I listen to old music? And that's a very important point. I listen to that old music because it tells me, oh, I was a young kid at that time. And I used to be so, I've had to have feelings about these songs. And I can still listen to these songs and look how where I am today. And it just is a point of like, I wanted to get there in life and here I am in many ways. Now I need to be thankful. I need to be reflective. I need to know what can I do to be a better person. No one is perfect. I think we all have made mistakes. I have made mistakes in life. I accept them. No one is perfect. But if you learn from your mistakes, if you change your path, I think there's beauty in it. And I think you will be rewarded in this change. I guess the one more point I want to add about success is, and I think East versus West is a good idea to talk about this, but I don't think that I can only tell you about East because that's kind of like the place where I grew up, the culture that I grew up in, and how I felt towards certain things. So I do want to highlight importance of parents. We sometimes, I don't know if it's true or not, but I do believe that in Eastern cultures, parents are, I think everyone respects their parents and values their parents, but there's something to give back to your parents, right? In Western culture, it's more about parents have, once you move out of house, you as a 18 or something, you move out of the house, your parents are by yourself, then you share things with them as you grow. But at some point, your parents become old and they either end up going to nursing home or however you decided. In my way of thinking is that parents have a lot to do with your success. And this all ties into the success model because your parents gave you all the means, right? There's a quote that I saw the other day. The success you have in life, the financial success or many success you have, is actually the success of your parents. And it's very true because it's a generational thing, right? So in a nutshell, I can describe my parents are educated, well educated, but they come from villages back home, right? So if you look at the siblings of my parents, on my mom's side, yes, they're very educated, and my maternal grandfather was a philosopher, a great educator. But on my dad's side of the family, most of the family was into farming and agriculture. My dad was the first educated of his family, entire clan, which is a big thing. And he went on and got a law degree. My mom was in army. So they made themselves, right? But then the next generation is here, and now my next generation is what I have to work towards. And your parents put so much effort in your success in many ways, by their presence, by them guiding you, by being there for you, by showcasing the love that you need to grow. And your parents put that effort in your childhood. So as a child, you feel like they are taking care of you and you owe a lot to them in life because they have brought you a point of life where they have made you good adults. And then as you grow in life, you don't forget your parents. Your parents are part and parcel of you. For the majority of the year, my parents live with me still. And that's my greatest pride, that I take care of my parents because now it's my time to give back to what they have given to me. And this is such a beautiful bond between you and your parent that can never be traded with any other bond. No other relationship can match the relationship of you with your parents. And I feel like this is another point that I always talk about, that parents play a huge role in my mindset. So always be thankful for what your parents did for you. And I can also say that you cannot blame your parents for what they didn't do for you, because they all have their own struggles too. So you have to realize that they did whatever they could do. You have, no matter what, you still owe to your parents. They gave birth to you, they took care of you, they brought you into this world. And they may not be perfect, but they did whatever they could do with whatever means they had, whatever emotional strengths they had. And as a child, we should always be very thankful for our parents. We should all be very appreciative of this parent. So I think this East versus West is kind of something which, I don't know if it's truly true or not, but it is something that really I always reflect, that we need to value and be thankful to our parents, because their prayers are what leads to your success too. Thank you guys for watching the podcast. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for more.